Imagine a world where the food giant in your kitchen, trusted for generations, stirs not only stirring your morning coffee, but also global controversies touching health, ethics, human rights, and the environment. That company is Nestlé, perhaps the most powerful food and beverage corporation on Earth, with deep roots since 1867. But behind its iconic brands lies a complex web. Is Nestlé truly advancing our health, or are convenience and profits prioritized over well-being? How ethical is its business model, particularly when localized communities, from California aquifers to Florida springs, finding themselves at odds with corporate water demands? Oh, and the human cost. The dark stories of labor on cocoa farms and the lives affected by infant formula marketing in developing regions. Our planet. The environmental price of global scale, from plastic pollution to deforestation to greenhouse gas emissions. We'll dive into these four pivotal parts: health, ethics, human rights, and environment. Using real-world data, we'll explore how each area reveals a different facet of Nestlé's influence, both positive aspirations and the troubling practices. This exploration will challenge our assumptions and open a broader conversation about whether this global corporation can coexist harmoniously with people and the planet. Nestlé markets itself as a nutrition, health, and wellness leader, but internal disclosures reveal a different picture. More than 60% of its mainstream packaged food and beverage products fail to meet internationally recognized health standards. In fact, only about 37% of its offerings are deemed healthy. This kind of labeling creates a health halo effect, where parents may assume they are giving their children a balanced, nutritious meal, when in reality, the product is loaded with sugar. It's a clear example of how Nestlé leverages selective labeling and branding to present products as healthier than they really are. A Bloomberg and Reuters analysis confirms that Nestlé has been working to reformulate its portfolio, reducing sugar and sodium by roughly 15% over 7 years. Still, lobbying groups like ShareAction argue the reliance on less healthy products remains too high. Although Nestlé targets a 50% increase in nutritious product sales by 2030, shareholder concerns persist. A different revelation. In low-income countries, Nestlé's baby cereals often contain added sugars, up to 6 grams per serving, whereas identical products in Switzerland are sugar-free. WHO experts and health advocates call this disparity unjustifiable and ethically problematic. Across the ultra-processed food landscape, where many of Nestlé's products belong, research shows potential links to obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease, thanks to high sugar and fat content and addictive formulations. Ethics collide with business when it comes to water. In Florida, environmental groups challenge a permit granting nearly 1 million gallons a day from Ginny Springs to bottling operations once owned by Nestle, now Blue Triton. Despite ecological warnings, the water permit was approved in December 2023. Critics argue the decision prioritized corporate interests over public water needs, while disturbing aquifer reduction and ecosystem harm continue. In California, for decades, Nestle reportedly pumped roughly 1 billion gallons annually from public forest lands under a permit that expired in 1988, paying as little as $524 annually. A stark example of local resource exploitation. Ethics also hit home in marketing. The long-debated baby formula scandal involved aggressive promotion in developing countries during the 1970s, framing formula as superior to breastfeeding, despite health risks when mixed with unclean water, linked to millions of infant deaths between 1960 and 2015. Even decades later, Nestlé's formula marketing practices have continued to draw criticism, such as promoting products with added sugars or honey in lower-income countries, while offering healthier versions in wealthier markets. This stark double standard not only questions the company's commitment to health, but also highlights a broader ethical problem, tailoring marketing in ways that prioritize profit over human well-being. Nestlé's baby formula scandal remains one of the most striking examples of how corporate influence, when left unchecked, can shape vulnerable populations' choices with devastating consequences. Deep and troubling, Nestlé's cocoa supply chain has long been tied to child labor and trafficking on West African plantations. In a landmark class action, former child slaves accuse Nestlé of aiding and abetting slavery through the support, equipment, and training provided to farms in the Ivory Coast. And the case eventually made it to the U.S. Supreme Court under the Alien Tort Statute. Allegations included the company's foreknowledge and financial influence in these practices, and failed legislative efforts to conceal the violations. Meanwhile, even when Nestlé has taken remediation steps, like its child labor monitoring and remediation system, helping over 150,000 children access education or support, yet critics remain skeptical, citing the scale and severity of systemic abuse. Additionally, reports surfaced of horrific conditions for young workers in Nestlé's supply chain: 14-hour days under armed guard, no pay, confined living, and violent reprisals for attempting escape. Nestlé's environmental footprint is massive. Its global annual greenhouse gas emissions exceed 87.5 million metric tons, which is equivalent to 22.5 coal-fired power plants. Water usage soared to 95.6 million in 2023, in which over a third sourced from water-stressed areas. On top of that, the company generates more than 1.5 million tons of waste each year. In efforts to reduce its impacts, Nestlé cites a greenhouse gas reduction of over 6.4 million tons, and reports a 20% net reduction since 2018. Yet critics highlight its lack of formal targets for methane emissions, especially from dairy, estimated at 8.74 million tons, calling for greater transparency. Plastic pollution remains a glaring issue. Nestlé consistently ranks among the world's worst plastic polluters, with vast quantities of single-use packaging ending up in oceans, landfills, and waterways. As of now, Nestlé vows to make 95 to 100% of packaging reusable or recyclable by 2025. Greenpeace and others criticize the plan for lacking substance and relying on plastic waste burning rather than reduction. Nestlé's sourcing practices also touch deforestation. Cocoa production in West Africa has displaced protected forests, with about 50% of these areas cleared for cocoa. The water, a vital human resource, has also been a flashpoint for Nestlé's controversies. The company has been accused of extracting large quantities of water from drought-prone Canadian and U.S. areas, sometimes with minimal compensation to local communities. In California's San Bernardino National Forest, state regulators issued a cease and desist order in April 2021, after it was revealed that Nestlé was taking approximately 58 million gallons per year, nearly 25 times its claimed rights. In March 2024, Sacramento woke up to a showdown over water. While residents were asked to cut back showers and let their lawns turn crispy brown, Nestlé's local plant was busy pumping up to 80 million gallons of groundwater a year, only to slap a label on it and sell it back as bottled water. Now enter the Crunch Nestlé Alliance, a coalition of climate activists, indigenous water defenders, and everyday Californians who'd had enough. Before sunrise, they chained themselves across the plant's entrances, waving banners that declared water not for profit. For nearly 7 hours, trucks couldn't move. Workers stared. Police waited. The chants, "Whose water? Our water," echoed like a desert drumbeat. It was serious. A protest against water privatization in a state that's been bone dry for years. But it was also a little absurd. People with reusable water bottles shouting at one of the world's biggest corporations for selling. Speaking of bottles, Since 2023 and ongoing, environmental groups in Europe, Consumer Protection Cooperation Network, and the European Commission have been filing complaints against Nestlé alongside Coca-Cola and Danone for allegedly misleading claims that their plastic bottles are 100% recycled, which is a form of greenwashing, which sparking concerns over plastic waste and packaging transparency. So, what have we uncovered about Nestlé? It's a company with global reach, whose products fill our shelves and whose influence runs deep. In health, despite reform efforts, much of its portfolio remains unhealthy, with troubling disparities in baby food quality across regions. On ethics, resource exploitation and aggressive marketing show a disturbing track record. Regarding human rights, the legacy of child labor and abuse in supply chains starkly contrasts with remediation programs. And environmentally, strides in emissions reduction are overshadowed by staggering plastic pollution, water strain, and deforestation. The question is, can Nestlé evolve into a truly sustainable, ethical steward of resources and people? 50 years from now, will Nestlé coexist harmoniously with nature, or remain a cautionary tale of unchecked corporate power? One thing's clear: the stakes are global, and the outcomes will shape our shared future.